All right, today we're going to tackle a question that has sparked arguments and confusion for centuries. It's a real biblical puzzle that gets right to the heart of Christian belief.
And it all comes down to this one huge question. Are we saved by faith alone? Because depending on which page of the Bible you're reading, you might get what sounds like two completely different answers. So on the one hand, you have the Apostle Paul, who writes really clearly in Romans that a person is justified by faith, apart from works. But then you flip over to James, the brother of Jesus, and he seems to say the exact opposite, that a person is justified by works and not by faith alone. So what is going on here? Is the Bible contradicting itself?
Well, what if the answer isn't about picking a side? What if this whole time, the entire conflict, the whole puzzle, really just comes down to a misunderstanding of a single powerful word?
And that word is faith. You see, for us in modern English, faith often just means mentally agreeing with something. But in its original context, especially the Hebrew word emunah, it meant something way more active. It describes this deep, ongoing trust, a loyalty that's proven by your actions and your obedience. Really, a much better translation is just one word: faithfulness.
And you know what? Paul himself shows us this is what he means. Over and over, he quotes this line from the Old Testament prophet Habakkuk, where the original Hebrew says, "The righteous will live by his emunah," his faithfulness. So for Paul, the kind of faith that justifies you is an active, living faithfulness. And there's this one story from the scriptures that illustrates this idea perfectly. So let's take a look at the case of Rahab. Now, James uses Rahab as his star witness for being justified by works. He literally asks, wasn't Rahab considered righteous for what she did? He's pointing directly to her actions.
But then, get this, the book of Hebrews points to the exact same event, welcoming those spies, and says she was saved not because of her works, but because of her faith.
So here it is. This is the aha moment. The Bible uses the words works and faith to describe the very same action. They're not in conflict at all. Her faith was her action. Her work was the proof of her faith. They are two sides of the same coin of obedient trust.
And this idea gets even stronger when we look at Jesus' own words, where he totally blurs the line between believing and doing.
So a crowd asks Jesus what works they need to do to please God, and his answer is just stunning. He says, the work of God is this, to believe. He actually defines the act of believing as a work.
Let's just pause on that for a second. With that one little statement, Jesus completely dissolves the hard line that we so often try to draw between what we believe in our minds and what we actually do with our lives.
And you see this theme all through his teaching. He tells a group of new believers that a true disciple is someone who abides in my word. And that word abide, it means to remain, to continue, to live in it. See, it's not a one-time decision. It's an ongoing, active way of life.
Okay, so to help make this idea a little less abstract and more concrete, let's look at a couple of simple but really powerful analogies.
Okay, think about a parachute. Mental assent is just saying, yeah, I believe this parachute works. Trust, well, that's actually putting the parachute on. But biblical faith, what we're calling faithfulness, that's the final step. That's actually jumping out of the plane. It's the action that proves your trust was real all along.
It's a lot like a marriage too. You know, saying I love my spouse is one thing, that's a feeling, a statement. But being faithful to your spouse, that involves all the ongoing actions, the loyalty, the commitment, the choices that demonstrate your love is genuine.
So now, let's take this new understanding and apply it to one of the most famous and maybe most misunderstood passages in this whole debate, Ephesians chapter 2. I'm sure you know these verses. For it is by grace you have been saved, through faith, not by works so that no one can boast. I mean, that sounds like the final word, right? Case closed. But here's the catch that so many people miss. Paul's thought doesn't actually end at verse 9. He immediately continues in the very next sentence to explain the whole purpose and the nature of this faith he's talking about. And here it is, verse 10. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works. He's saying we are saved by a faith that was created for the very purpose of doing good works. The works don't save us, but they are the inevitable, designed from the start result of the faith that does. And just like that, the puzzle comes together. That whole perceived battle between faith and works, it just dissolves. It was based on a misunderstanding of the terms all along. They were never meant to be enemies. They're partners in the life of a believer. So what have we learned?
It really boils down to this. True biblical faith is being faithful. Faith is doing. Faith is obeying.
And that leaves us with one final kind of provocative thought. If faith isn't just something we believe in our heads, but something we actually do, an active faithfulness that we live out, what does that look like in your life today?
So where do you stand? Before watching this, did you lean more toward faith alone or faith manifested in works? Did this explanation change your perspective? Drop agree, disagree, or changed my view below, and tell me why in a sentence.